everybody, it is almost 1, and I wanted to come on first before my friend Becky joins us. Hold on. Can you hear the music? Had to be a little festive. Got music, I got my nails, Christmas nails, Santa hats. Anyway, my friend Becky is going to be coming on at 1. She raced home from teaching her students. She is a biochemistry and medical lab. Oh, I got something in my teeth. Medical lab technician. Excuse me. And she's going to pop on at 1. But before she comes on, just wanted to kind of talk about what we're going to be talking about briefly in this little interview with her. So I met Becky through Turn Aunt, and she lives just up north in Green Bay, 30 miles up the road. Then we met in person at TLA in Vegas, and she is just a wealth of knowledge. She's really fun to watch, but she's somebody that gets health struggles because she herself struggles with 3 autoimmune diseases, which we will talk about when she hops on. But yeah, she's just really, really great. So if you are coming on live, why don't you just drop a comment below where you're listening in from, like what city, what town, what state. And if you end up watching us on the replay, because I will keep it posted, I always keep it posted for a while, just put #replay if you are watching it on the replay. So we'll just wait for Becky to get on, but if anyone pops on here before Becky gets on, how are your Christmas plans going? How's life? How's the fam? Busy? Yeah, I know. I was listening to a podcast today on how you can be busy with all everything. Kids, work, expectations, requirements, so many things. But everyone has that to an extent. And so really the only thing that's ever keeping you from getting your goals accomplished is you, is me, is our mind, like nothing else. And then what's really not helpful in those situations too, and I've been wanting to do it myself. But if this I'm so tired, and this was on, and this kid had a birthday, and this one had this sports tournament, and then we had to travel here, and then he got sick, and then she got sick, and then it's okay for somebody to go, yeah, yep, that stuff happens. I get that. I've been there. But then to get out of that space right away and say, well, you got it. Let's go. You got to rise up and get past it, because it's just part of life. If you surround yourself with people that are constantly going to be like, oh, I know you have it rough. I can understand why you can't get this, and this done, and these goals you want, because you have this, and that happening. That's not going to help us move the needle forward. All right. So we definitely need people to kind of call us out on that. I think Becky might be coming on here. And Becky, if you're on, I did send you an invite, but if you want to request to join, because this never seems to work how I ask it to. So yeah, we'll just wait till Becky gets on. But she's just so encouraging to me, because she's not one to wallow in her difficulties. She's one to find solutions. And if she gets improvement and then she plateaus, she pivots to find the next thing to help her move past that plateau. And I love that. And I think she'll be really encouraging to you too, listening to her. So sorry about these glasses reflecting. I don't know. I need them on right now, and I don't know why they do that. But yeah, she'll be on soon. I can't believe it's already December 10th. That's 15 days till Christmas. I've had to really, really, really intentionally remind myself every day that all the things I did as a kid that I thought were so special and fun, that maybe some people would be like, that's all you guys did. you know, watching the Charlie Brown Christmas or watching Christmas specials with my mom or making popcorn, garland for the tree. I grew up in a small rural country area of Nebraska. Like, we made our own fun, but those were such special memories. And I want to remember to do those things and carry those on with my kids too. What I don't do as much of though is baking, because there's just so much anyway. And we don't need the sugar. And it's not that I'm not going to have some treats over Christmas. I will, but I will find them. They will be at like almost every gathering and place from here on out. So I just, you know, and then people give you stuff, which is so nice. And I'm just probably not. I mean, maybe one thing this year I'll make. Maybe. I don't know. Are you guys baking? Have you guys baked anything? If you're just hopping on right now, drop in the comments where you're watching from. What city? If you're here because you too struggle with autoimmune and you saw this and you were like, hey, I want to hear what she has to say. I struggle with autoimmune. Oh, wait, maybe this is it. Requested join. Okay. Says it's adding her. There she is. Hi, Becky.
I pushed request to join like 200 times. I'm like, where is she? What's going on?
I know, it only showed up that one time. I'm sorry. This happened last time I did a live with my friend. It was his launch, and he lives over in Minnesota. He doesn't have the best Wi-Fi anyway. It took us like 4 times to connect, and then when we did connect, I could hear him, but this bottom square was just a blank gray square. So I'm like, this is gonna have to do, guys.
Yeah, no. So I'm like listening to you talk. I'm like, request, but we're here.
You know, dumb phones. Okay. Anyway, hi. Thanks for racing home to be part of this live.
Oh, no problem.
You always motivate me so much. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you don't let your life's busyness like not that you don't get that way maybe mentally in your head, but you continue to project to other people a positive way of dealing with it, and it's just shown so much success. It, you know, not just, you know, with your job with Trinot, but like with your health. You know, I've been loving watching your carnivore stuff. I'm not brave enough to try it yet, but I think it's so great that you were just like, I'm just gonna do this. Like, you kind of took the feelings out of it, and you're just like, this is what I'm gonna do. And you've been really real with it, and I just love that. But anyway, so I want to introduce everybody to Becky. So I met Becky through Trinot just a couple months ago, and we kind of physically met in Vegas. But she is just up north, like 30 miles in Green Bay from me, in the city of Green Gold. She is a medical lab scientist. Hopefully I get all this right. She herself struggles with three autoimmune diseases: Hashimoto's, seronegative rheumatoid arthritis, and discoid lupus. Her profession, in addition to being a mom and mom of 3, right? You guys have 3, 4, 3, wife. She is a biochemistry and medical lab scientist for college students, right? Yep. In the college age. Yep. Her passion is in biohacking for health and longevity in a world of vitality and energy. She says, you know, as we get older, our bodies do some crazy things, and we have some natural things in this space to help in that capacity. So welcome, Becky.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's start with this. When did your health issues kind of start coming to, you know, to fruition, to symptoms wise? Like, has it been just in the last 5-10 years? Did it start as a kid?
Honestly, I think the first issue that I had was probably after the birth of my first child. And then I started to notice more fatigue and energy issues. And I kind of fell upon Hashimoto's by accident. So I worked in a medical laboratory at the time. We do normal range studies by drawing blood from everybody in the lab, essentially. And those are our normal ranges that we utilize for the patient population. And we had a new analyzer that came in. We had about 20 tests to do. And my thyroid peroxidase antibody test was actually 248, and everybody else's was less than 4. So I'm like, whoa, what on earth? Like I had
Wow.
no idea.
Uh-huh.
So I took this lab result to my provider. He was my OBGYN at the time. And I saw him every year and he would medicate me for my thyroid. And I said, look at this. He's like, what is a TPO antibody? I had no idea. That's very common, by the way. So what he said is, I said, well, it's an autoantibody against your thyroid. I was like, we'll just watch it. So I want to say within the next year or so, all of a sudden I found myself with massive brain fog, falling asleep at the microscope, muscle aches and pains, just general fatigue, being really tired. Caffeine wouldn't even touch it. And I went back to the doctor and had my labs drawn, and my thyroid levels were just through the floor. And I equate it to when you get out of bed in the morning, or not even get out of bed, you're in a dead sleep and somebody wakes you up and they're like, hey, wake up, wake up. And they start talking to you and you're like, what did you just say? Like, oh, I don't even know.
Right.
So that is what it's like to have Hashimoto's, the brain fog piece of it. And so then they started medicating me using levothyroxine, and they just kept increasing my dose. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. So that's where I fell upon the world of integrative medicine and looking more into biohacking. So I found a local provider that we have here who is like just absolutely amazing. She's an MD that used to work at a hospital emergency room. And she got really sick of seeing some of the effects that people were having from being treated through Western medicine, but it wasn't solving the root cause of the problem. We were just putting band-aids on things, right? She gets down to the root cause of why. Why is your body making thyroid antibodies? Not like, hey, it's running out of gas, let's just keep adding more to it. You know, we want to figure out exactly what the issue is. So she's really been an integral part of helping me find some natural ways to solve the problems that I was dealing with. But a lot of the things that Hashimoto's people have are things that a lot of people struggle with, right? We all have skin issues. We all have fatigue. We all have, muscle aches and pains. So there's so many things here that can help people from a natural capacity and not just relying on Western medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. I know with, my own issues with like chronic Lyme, and then they found mold toxicity and things like that. So many of those same symptoms. And I was having a lot of neurological issues too. But I think so often, like, and with Lyme, I mean, I tell this story sometimes when I went in, because I had like these striations on my side, and they basically looked like something had just clawed me. And it wasn't like the skin wasn't broken, but it was like streaks of bruising, and that's a Bartonella striae, they call it. And so I knew this was what it was because but we had moved to Manitowoc. I hadn't found a national, and I wanted to find that integrative doctor, the one who has the medical background, but also has seen like so many people not get helped. And so they went on, and they continued. But I went into the urgent care because I knew I needed something. And, he was like, well, I don't know. And I said, well, I think it could be Bartonella. And he goes, no, only dogs get that. He thought it was Bordetella, like, dogs. And I was like, not Bordetella, Bartonella. He didn't know what it was. And I know that's not a super common thing, but it's just like, huh? Like, so he didn't even know how to order the test. So it took him like 20 minutes to call around and ask how to, and whatever. So it just gets so frustrating. Meantime, you're trying to function and be a mom. I fell asleep at the wheel once. I mean, thankfully I wasn't going fast, but I was at a stoplight and I just fell asleep and I ended up bumping the person in front of me. So, but I think when we don't have someone to help us and like get the testing, like really deep down root testing, we just start thinking we have like, oh, I must have a thyroid disease. I must have Lyme. I must have this. And we start trying to do things ourselves, which anything that we eliminate toxic is going to help. But until you, like what you said, you just kind of randomly came across the TPO antibodies, you wouldn't have been able to find a direction of like, what was going on. And so I don't know how did you end up finding out about the seronegative? Like I know what rheumatoid arthritis is, but I never heard of seronegative. And then discoid lupus, I've heard of lupus, but what are those? Or
so the seronegative, it's SERO, like serology, seronegative rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
So it is inflammatory joint pain that comes along with having autoimmune disease. Now, the discoid lupus is in kind of a autoimmune reaction within your skin that causes itchiness and ulcerations underneath the skin. So I had a biopsy done on an area on my skin, which is where we found that there was an immune reaction happening within my layers of my skin.
Sure.
So that would be the discoid lupus. So lupus can be, there's a systemic lupus that affects your entire body, and there's discoid that just affects your skin. So I don't have a systemic yet. I'm doing everything I can to keep inflammation at bay and stop my body from attacking itself even further. So you know, those are the three things that I contend with, that I don't let define
Sure.
me by any stretch,
Yeah.
because I have a life to live
Yeah.
here. And if you sit there and you think, well, this is what the cards I've been dealt,
Uh-huh.
this is what I have, this is how I'm gonna live, and poor woe is me. You can do
Uh-huh.
that, or you can choose to do something
Yeah.
about it. So I
Right.
chose to do something about it.
Yeah. And like I said, not knowing those things about you, I wouldn't guess that, because you look fine. You look great. You have energy, but you don't, you just
I don't.
choose to push forward. And I think that's what's sometimes the hardest thing. But, so then what, I guess, have you been in the biochemistry medical lab scientist? Was that like what you went for, right after high school? You've been doing that, your whole
Yeah,
career?
I started pre-med,
Okay.
actually. And once I got into a couple years into that, I realized that, the competition was really not what I was a fan of.
Sure.
And I like to dabble in many different things. I've got a major ADHD brain, so
Yeah.
I like to be doing this. I like to be doing this. I like to be doing this.
Yep.
A lot of different things. And I realized that that wasn't the crowd I wanted to be around. And do I really want to be responsible for somebody's care completely?
Yeah.
I don't know. So the school I was at had a medical technology program, and I didn't know what it was, but something pushed me through that door,
Yeah.
and it was like a higher power that just pushed me through that door and
Sure.
said, I think this is where you need to go. So I walked in there. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna sign up. So it's medical. It's going to be great,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Thank God I did, because here I am today, doing what I love, which is teaching future medical laboratorians how to do all of these testings, like the thyroid testing and
Yeah.
the TPO antibodies and all of those
Right.
things. But the science behind it and the biochemistry within how things work in the body, what happens and how we test and how the analyzers work to test for those things is kind of where my background
Sure.
lies. But it ties in really well with learning a lot more about how the immune
Yep.
system works, because my students have to learn that too. So I
Yep.
teach immunology, also teach biochemistry, microbiology. And those things really kind of help me learn and know where to find the good information that is
Yeah.
accurate. So
Yeah.
I love that piece of
Yeah.
it.
Which then comes in so helpful with what we do here in Ternat,
Right.
because it is the natural side of things. It's the things that come from the earth that we've always had, that have always been used.
Mhm.
And you're able to, again, we never say we treat or cure or prevent, those are always things we say, and it's true, but it's to have that knowledge. I think it gives you a level of respect with a lot of people that are so new to this, like they're just so many people are so new and so wary, like, is it
Mhm.
FDA approved? They've just been so trained to think one way, that at least when you have that medical background and that science background, biochemistry background, you can really explain how things interact. I've seen you in chats explain that to people, and I think that's so important for all of us to, we're not all going to be able to go back and get degrees in this, but we can all be teaching ourselves and learning. I mean, we live in a world of the internet, so I think it's just so important to know the whys, and like, why does vitamin E do what it does? And
Right.
there's different kinds of vitamin E, things that you just wouldn't ever think of. So yeah, so what, I guess, when it comes to well, let's go back to when you learned about, when was the integrative medicine part? When did you start with your integrative doctor, I guess, after the diagnosis of Hashimoto's?
I dealt with an endocrinologist for quite a
Okay.
while. I fired him
Okay.
after a while. I would say I've probably been with my integrative medicine provider for 6 or 7
Okay.
years, maybe, I think. And she was the one where they kept increasing my medication. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So she was finding more alternative ways to feel better, biohacking. She's the one that had me doing cold plunging,
Oh, sure. Okay.
all of the different things. Like, she does that, but she also tested all my vitamin levels. My vitamin D was through the floor. My vitamin B12 is not optimal.
Okay.
Those types of things that are very important to get into a normal range.
Mhm.
But she also dove into more about why my Hashimoto antibodies may be elevated, and we're still working on that. That's a long-term process to try and
Yeah.
figure that out. And that's what led me to you talking about the
Yeah.
carnivore diet earlier. What led me to the carnivore diet is the TPO antibodies and trying to get them as low as
Sure.
possible. And I've tried many other things. I've tried going gluten-free. I've tried, certain supplements. I've tried, there's different things I've done. And you don't know if it's tied to food or if it's genetic,
Right.
or if it's something else for trauma, childhood trauma can be something that can cause that as well.
Yeah.
So there's, you just, it's like peeling back the onion, trying to figure out what is the cause of this so that you can get those antibodies down to zero. And, you know, my doctor is, she's kind of interesting with this. She goes, you know, I don't care what your antibodies are as long as you feel good.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. So if they can get your thyroid levels at a point where you feel really good, then she doesn't really care what your antibodies are. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but I still have this game that I'm playing where I want my antibodies to be zero. She's like, okay, Becky, okay, just keep, what's next, you know?
Right. And that seems to be your brain. I mean, this is what you do. You work with numbers, you work with chemistry, you work with biohacking, you know, you're also not just doing that for yourself, but you're teaching students. So I can, you know, you have a brain that you want to know and understand. And I get that. Some people love that. They love games. They're very competitive, you know, and I think, well, why not? If you're driven by that, do it. I love that the doctor, because that flips the other way sometimes too, when they're like, well, your labs look fine. I don't know why you feel like crap. Do you want an antidepressant? I mean, I was actually offered that years ago, before like about 8-9 years ago, when I was having symptoms of legit, like I felt like I was getting early onset dementia and neurological things, muscle twitches. They were testing me for like MS and even ALS. It was horrifying. It was really scary, and everything's coming back normal. And then they're like, well, it's anxiety. You must have, you know, I think my last child was like 2 years out at this point, maybe a year and a half, something like that. And postpartum, I'm like, no, I've dealt with anxiety since childhood. I know what that is. This is not anxiety, like paranoia, like stuff I never had. Like, and it was all just this, you know, the Lyme not being treated, the mold, and then histamine. I have very low histamine tolerance. So like fall, you'd think, well, you know, spring a little bit, but fall's horrible for me with all the leaves and stuff. So I have to like make sure I'm taking quercetin, and sometimes even like I'll take, you know, actual antihistamine medication because it brings down that jittery, you know, feeling. But, you know, I too work with an integrative doctor, and I'm just so thankful, because even feeling 60% better than I did is like 100% to me. But being told like, well, your labs look fine, you're fine, that sucks too, because it's like, no, something's not right. But they only have a certain level of knowledge, and then it ends there. So let's just like be speaking of the carnivore diet. So I guess, you know, you don't really, I mean, I know it's been out there for a while. I know like Dr. Jordan Peterson does it. There's a couple other people, but what, you know, in these 40 some days that you've been doing it, what are like the 3 biggest things you've noticed that has kept you doing it for now?
So the reason why, backing up to the reason why I chose to do it, this is not for the faint of heart. I've done paleo, I've done autoimmune paleo, I've done everything you could possibly imagine to try and work through these thyroid antibodies. And the thing that drew me to this was the amount of people and providers and physicians that I was finding that were promoting this, and the rationale always went back to autoimmune disease.
Sure.
And so that always piques my attention, right? So then I started reading a little bit more about it. And when you look at a lot of what causes a lot of the autoimmune response, we got molecular mimicry and things like that from having leaky gut.
Sure.
You can really, by taking anything out of your diet that could possibly elicit an immune response, which is pretty much all your plants, if I'm being honest, except for like vegetables are a problem. You wouldn't think that something that's supposed to be so healthy for you would be such a problem. You're talking about histamines. You got to point that direction quite a bit with those histamines, and sometimes some meats too. So I don't know, that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, that's a tick thing too with certain meats that I found out. We had a friend that ended up, there's a tick disease that can cause you to become allergic to red meat.
I heard that. Yep.
It happened to a friend of ours. Crazy. But anyway, yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So, you know, when you take the plants away, and the fruit and the nuts, everything that tends to be allergenic, and you just eat meat, because humans, you need the protein to stay alive, right?
Yeah.
So one of the types of meats that is definitely the least interactive with people is beef, right?
Sure.
Almost anybody can eat beef and not have any issues with it whatsoever. So eating mainly beef and salt for a month is pretty much what I did. I am not a perfect human. I mean, I did have a glass of wine once or twice, red wine with dinner, for a celebration. So it's not like I am like 100% perfect. Also, you know, they say seasonings, like you shouldn't have any seasonings, just salt. I did use some seasonings as well. So there's that. But yes, I did eat only meat and eggs I'm on day 42. And, yeah, day 42. But I did do Thanksgiving, and I did do the day after Thanksgiving, and I did have things that were not carnivore on those days because those were celebration days with my family. So, right, you want a piece of your mom's pie or whatever it may be. So yeah, so that didn't set me back at all. I was surprised.
Good.
I thought
Good.
I felt awful.
Yeah.
I did. I felt very bloated.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm on day 42, and the things that I've noticed the most: energy, steady,
Yeah.
all the way through the day. You don't have like a ugh, and you're going up and down and up and down. That's huge. The inflammation in my stomach is gone. Like I can suck my stomach all the way in. I wish I would have measured my waist.
Yeah.
Because my pants are like falling off of me. I'm down 19 pounds in 41 days.
Yeah.
And I'm not that big of a person. I'm like 100 and what do I weigh today?
No, you're pretty petite. I mean, from what I remember is,
I think I'm 162. So to be honest, to go from 184-ish to 160, what was it? 163, 160 something. Yeah. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not, that's a lot.
It's way more noticeable in shorter people, you know, like when you're taller, you can lose weight and no one notices for a long time, but you can also gain some weight and people don't notice as much for a while because you have that length. But shorter people, not that you're like ridiculously short, but you are shorter. I mean, it's that's a big chunk, and then in such a fast amount of time, you know.
That's what I'm saying. Like if I was like 300 pounds, went from 300 down to 280, that's imaginable in that time span. But for somebody of my size and stature to lose 19 pounds in that fast amount of time was very eye-opening for me.
Sure.
The other thing that I noticed is I've been on a GLP-1 medication, and I know the sensation and the feeling that you get. We also have a GLP-1 drink that does so much more than that, by the way. Yeah. Which is why I still utilize that. So when I say carnivore, the first month I didn't use this. I've brought back Activate for a variety of reasons. But the forgetting to eat, not thinking about food is about as potent as a GLP-1 injection was.
Wow.
Because you are so satisfied. It takes so long to digest just meat that you're just not hungry, right? And you get full so fast because you only eat so much meat until you're sick of eating meat. The other thing that I noticed too is people think it's expensive. It's like, no, you know what's expensive? Potato chips, bread,
that goes like that because they don't fill you up at all, and your kids eat a whole bag in one sitting, and you're like, okay, that's gone. That was, and I spent $5 on chips the other day because they were like the avocado oil, right? And you don't find those too often anymore, and they're gone. 2 bags. That's $10 of chips.
That 5-pound tub of organic spinach, throw away every week, that kind of stuff. All the fruits and stuff that was in the drawer. Yeah. Like that. So when you look at it, like I went and bought 12 ribeyes at Costco, and they were the thin ones, and I cut them into like 3s. So I got like 20 some steaks out of a $60 package. So I mean, that's cheaper than McDonald's. So and you can make steak in an air fryer. You know that? I just found that out.
Well, I saw you throw it in there the other day. You tossed it in. I'm like, what's she tossing it in? I'm like, oh, it's the air fryer. But it came out so nice. Like you cut into it. And I'm like, ooh, that looks juicy.
It was really good.
It looked good. So
that's what I'm saying is like, if that was cheaper than McDonald's, to be honest, but it was a really good ribeye. I love ribeye. It's full of fat. It's full of protein. It's just so flavorful. So I've noticed that it's less thinking. When I did autoimmune paleo, I had to like, which vegetables can I have? I have to find the recipe to use those vegetables. I have to chop those vegetables. I got to make this meal. I got to do this. I got to make that. Now it's like I make this meat and then I make sides for my family. But I just eat the meat. I don't think about it. Today's gonna be chicken. Tomorrow's gonna be ribeye. The next day it's gonna be salmon. The next day it's gonna be shrimp. Like you don't have to think at all, and then just make enough to have for lunch the next day, and then buy some beef jerky in the middle and some hard-boiled eggs, and you're done. You don't have to think about it. Now, is there variety? Absolutely not. It is a lot of protein, so I do recommend a good digestive enzyme as well for people that are just getting started to get their, make sure that they have the good proteases and things to break those down. A good probiotic is nice too. And we happen to have one of those. That's really amazing. So I do recommend that as well. But those are the things that I've noticed from this. And the weight loss was not my intent. My intent was to get my TPO antibodies down. And the weight loss just came along for the ride, which I was like looking at the scale like, is this for real?
I know. You really have me more tempted. Like, I think it just has to be something that you just decide you're going to do. You really can't overthink it.
I would say don't. Yeah, you just got to do it. And if you're doing it strictly for weight loss, like I want to lose some weight, you will lose weight. But have another reason. Because if you just are focused on just the weight loss, you're going to get so bored. You're going to start feeling sorry for yourself. And you never want to do something that makes you feel sorry for yourself.
Right.
You only want to do it if it's going to bring you to a point that you're feeling better.
Right.
The inflammation that has left my body is incredible.
Yep.
I can't.
Yep.
I ate those 2 days, Thanksgiving and the day after.
Mm-hmm.
I felt so awful. I could not wait to go back to eating only meat. That's how great it made me feel.
That's awesome. I know of somebody, he's a guy that is a friend of mine, and he's been doing this now, I think, for like 8 or 9 months. And his was not for weight loss at all. He's a very fit guy. He's just very into health, and he's still going strong. And he said a few of those days too, where, you know, had some wine here or beer here, but like overall. So I haven't, there's not a lot of people doing it, but the ones that are, I haven't heard one negative thing. No. So that makes you wonder too. The other thing that doesn't really seem like to be your issue, but I remember years ago talking to somebody he was a professor at UW La Crosse, very smart man, struggled with bipolar, and would sometimes get so, have such a bad episode that he would end up in like, he needed to be treated like in a hospital for a while, married, had kids, but this brilliant guy. But ironically, and it didn't really it didn't click with me maybe so much when I talked to him, but like years later, I thought, holy cow, he was diabetic. He was a diabetic. And I want to say he was a type 1, but either way, type 1 or type 2 were still sugars. Sugars are all over the place, very dangerously sometimes. And you wonder, not that was the cause of him having bipolar. I think there definitely is genetic, things going on with mental health, but how much maybe better he could keep those episodes at bay, possibly, if we're eating, and again, we're not saying go eat carnivore forever, but like with even our products, keeping your blood sugars balanced can help with so many other things. Weight loss is just one thing. And there's tons of people that, I've had some people say, well, I don't need to lose weight. No, you don't. You're very thin. But they have autoimmune struggles, or they have, high blood pressure, but they're really skinny, or they have, weight loss is just, waist circumference is just one small piece of the entire thing.
Right.
So I just think that whatever you do to balance your blood sugar is so critical to our overall health.
It absolutely
and
is.
So yeah, I really hope, it'll be fun to keep watching you and to see like, what, when you check your antibodies again or whatever. But, so we'll kind of like wrap it up here pretty soon here. I just wanted to ask, kind of go into then about Trinant, like what, I've heard you kind of explain your story, but like, when did you come upon Trinant then? When did you start using the products? And then when did you decide to say, hey, I'm going to build this as a business?
Okay. So I was in my doctor's office, and I'm not going to mention her name. But she is a provider in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in the area. And she actually has Trinant in her office. So when I was in her office, I was complaining of hair loss, the skin issues I was having, and the joint pain.
Sure.
And she asked me if I was using collagen. And I said, I've got the blue tub from Costco. And I'm not good at using it because you got to mix it with your coffee. You got to mix it with a smoothie. Like it's such a pain. It didn't mix well. It was just a disaster.
Tastes gross.
And I said, I don't even think it works. Whatever. So she's like, oh, no. She goes, I want you to use a liquid collagen that is a high octane, like WD-40 for your joints. It's going to help your hair grow back, make your joints feel amazing. Your skin's going to be hydrated from within. I'm like, sign me up, right? So, in her office, she happened to have these bottles of collagen, right? So I bought it, took it home. Within a month, I couldn't believe I had these spriglets coming back. And I'll put down in the comments what my hair looked like before and after. But 2 months later, my friend Carissa reaches out to me, who I've known for many, 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 many years. And she said, hey, Becky, I partnered with a company in the health and wellness space. I think you should take a look at it. And I'm like, no, Carissa, I'm not doing any of those things. I'm not doing that. Right. And she goes, I said, but send it because I love you. Yeah. My friend, send it, whatever. What is it? Just send
I'll look at it.
And when I opened it, I about peed my pants and fell off my chair when I saw it was the same name that was on my bottle of liquid collagen. Yeah. And so I'm like, what? Wait. What? So I said, send me more. So she sent me this more information. And when I started looking at it, I'm like, if this has changed my life to this point, what could I do to help other people? And what else do they have? What else do they have? Holy cow. Right. So I wanted everything. So I went all in and I got everything that they had, right? I was just so excited. And, the more I dug into it and the science behind it, and everything we have is based on whole raw foods and everything is natural and CGMP certified, third party tested for heavy metals, leads, molds, and toxins, and all the things that I try to clear out of my diet. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. So I signed up with the full intent of knowing people that I knew I could help.
Yeah.
I knew I could think of 10 people off the top of my head that I knew would benefit from this, and I could be the person to give them the information. So, you know, that was such a blessing in itself. But then once I really started sharing what it was that I had in my story, it grew from there.
Yeah.
So from in the last year and a half, I've just gone from starting to being, you know, a Sapphire leader and just being able to really help other people help people as well, which has really been an absolute blessing. So that's kind of how I got there. And then I just continue on, because why not help people with the energy, being able to sleep better, having the perimenopause symptoms improve, having their hair grow back, having more moisture in my skin. I don't have that itchy skin anymore. The amount of hyaluronic acid in here that it adds to your joints are more slippery and mobile, so you're not creaking and cracking, walking around like making all these noises in the middle of the night with your ankles cracking.
Yep.
So,
popping and cracking. Yeah, I heard a story last night. Oh no, I heard a story last night, and maybe, I don't know if you were on, there was a call last night, and she's been with this company for a while too, but she had a major shoulder problem, frozen shoulder, had surgery, I believe. You know, that doesn't always help. My sister-in-law had shoulder surgery done for a neck issue. She has a genetic defect that when she was born, it's like her neck curves the other way. I mean, you can't tell, but then she was also in the military. She was in Afghanistan for years, so she carried a lot of heavy stuff. So she's got some other things too, but lots and lots of pain. And she'll just get like torticollis sometimes and be like stuck in it. So they thought maybe fixing her shoulder would help. It didn't really, but shoulders can be such a, such a hard injury to deal with. And so anyway, you know, she'd gone through this surgery, recovery, it's still not feeling good. And she had like this like frozen shoulder, and you know, you just don't have the range of motion. And she started on the glow, you know, like you did. And I don't know who got her on it or who suggested it, but she said she was in therapy one day and she felt her shoulder just pop, and they heard it. Like even the therapist heard it pop. And she's thinking this is a bad thing, right? And the therapist said, no, that actually is your shoulder finally, like it released, like the you know, the tension between the muscles and the tendon and everything were so tight and not lubricated that this collagen finally, and that's when her pain started going away, because she was able to get that range of motion back. I'm like, holy cow, you know. And my son, 16, had a MCL tear this football season, grade 1, so didn't need surgery. We was back on the field in 2 weeks, and we were not pushing it, but I made him take it. He was like, I don't like this. And it's good. You know, I know some people have taste issues, but like, yeah, it's tart. It's not, but it's fine. It's way better than any medicine you'd ever have to take. I like it, whatever. But then after a couple times, he was fine with it. And he was back on the field in 2 weeks. And even the orthopedic doctor here was like, whoa, you know, no, I can't say that's what it was, but I'm confident. I know what helped. So I think that is in and of itself, is the proof is in the results. You know, people don't, I get it. We're bombarded with stuff every day, all day long, you know, this will help. And we're all skeptical now. I think the last couple of years made us more skeptical than we've ever been about anything in our life. But if you're talking to real people like you who have these real things and you're having real results, what's the risk? I mean, the only risk you're taking is not doing it and staying in that same place of fatigue and pain and, you know, all the things. So yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you want to add then? Just to like, I did want to say like, well, you did, you're at the Sapphire level. You drive your Jeep. Your husband does your husband have a Jeep? I think he does.
No.
Okay.
He's a Ford guy. He won't get a Jeep.
That's so funny, because my husband too was not at all ever. He's always been Toyota, Honda, Subaru. But now that it's there and that availability is there, and they're saying, hey, we'll pay you to drive this, he's like, sure.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is their first rank of Jade.
First rank, yeah. Which floors me. Yeah.
Which is not much. It's having 2 associates and 1,300 group volume. Like,
yeah,
that is unbelievable. Most places, like pink Cadillacs you see driving around. Yeah, that's like the very tippy top, like the top 0.05% of that company gets pink Cadillac or whatever it may be for those other companies. But we, the very first rank, first, I hit that rank of Jade in 2 days. And So now I have a leased 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe that is completely covered by Trinot.
Yeah.
And that is such a blessing. I'm going to be honest and say Jeep wouldn't have been my first choice of vehicles, but if you're going to pay me to drive one,
Right.
I'm definitely going to drive one. And my husband said no Wrangler. I'm like, oh, I want the pink Wrangler. And he's like, no, because
That's what mine said too. I said, I
do
want
have
a
a
Rubicon.
distance.
He's like,
yeah,
no way. He's like, do you know how loud those are? How big those tires are? I'm like, I don't care.
I know.
45.
He said, you know what, one day when the kids are all gone and you're not, maybe if you're not driving to Appleton back and forth and, you know, like that would be fine to have as a fun summer vehicle that you store in the winter. But he goes, right now, it's not worth, you would not want to drive that down Highway 41 every single day to go to work. So
I get that.
I get that.
Fine. And we still, you know, you still have some kids at home. We still have some kids at home. You know, I just love the fact that, you know, and a couple people asked me too, like, well, what are you going to do if you don't, you know, what if you don't make that rank that first,
you're going to make a car payment anyways.
Well, that too. But I said, well, that's why I said I qualified the first month, but I've waited now up to the fourth month because I did want to see how I did. And I've grown a rank each month. Now, you know, I'm not going to say that's going to continue, but because that happened.
Don't say that. It will continue.
Well, okay, you're right.
I have never not been Jeep qualified.
Right. But I mean, I wanted to see, you know, starting out brand new in August, it was like, well, yeah, let's see how this goes. And this has just proved to me, I've just stayed consistent. You know, that's it. I don't, you know, there's days, there's weeks sometimes that feel like it's just blank kind of, but it's the consistency that you put in before that and after that all of a sudden it, you know, you see that cycle, you see how it works. The people come back, people ask questions. But that's what made me confident, was like, okay, I've only grown since Jade, so we're ready to go. Let's do this. And it's a way for people that can't buy a car up front in cash, a good car that they're not going to be putting tons of money into all the time. They encourage us to now take that money and go save it, go invest it, do something smart with it. Like they think about not just our health, but our wealth in this company.
And if you think about it, health and wealth are intertwined.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of leaders, like big leaders, multimillionaires, all these things. And he said, you know, you very rarely see somebody reach up to high levels of entrepreneurship and like really grow a business and all that. Yeah. When they're obese, they're unhealthy, they're drinking a lot of alcohol, those types of things. Those people are not reaching those levels, right? In order to get to those levels and have the energy and mental health required to get yourself to something like red diamond, blue diamond, all of these things that we have in this company that is very, it's anybody could do it, but it takes a mental wherewithal to get there. And if you are unhealthy, your gut's unhealthy, that's connected to your brain. Okay, I'm sorry, a lot of anxiety and depression, gut-brain connection, huge. So carnivore, that's another thing I've heard too, by the way, just a little offset here, that people on the carnivore diet have completely cleared up their severe depression and anxiety. Well, there's that. But that is huge. And that's why Trinot moved from being a wealth model to adding the health model, because they knew that without your health, you're not going to get to wealth. I mean, unless you inherited it or something, but there's nobody who's sitting there with morbid obesity, type 2 diabetes, massive amounts of inflammation and mental health issues, making it to the life of their dreams. It takes this to get yourself there. Yeah, you know, absolutely. So that's why they tied it together. It's very interesting. I got to spend time at base camp in the Utah mountains with owners, and they very explicitly talked about this. Like, you don't see Craig Cotter, our VP of sales. He's hitting the gym every morning, and he's very, very healthy, and he's very successful. Right? Yeah. You need health to get to wealth from a natural capacity. And like I said, I'm not talking people that inherit stuff, things handed to them, whatever. But those things go hand in hand very, very readily. Yep. And we do have to make hard choices sometimes. Doing this is not, taking charge of your health is not easy. It's hard to step outside the mold of what maybe a lot of your friends and family are always doing, you know, going out for drinks or eating, you know, just processed food. That's hard. Sticking to anything is hard. And that's why having a community is the number one thing for me. And if people were honest with themselves, I think, you know, there's that here and there person that they can just do everything. They don't, you know, they can keep themselves self-motivated. They can do the things. Majority of people need community. And that's the biggest thing I think with Trinot is you know, there's products all over. I could just use this, and this. Yeah, you could do that. But from experience, I'll just tell you, just don't waste your time, because you will have support here. You will have a community, because
not if, when you fall off, you know, when you just have days, something happens in your life, you're going to have people that are going to be there to push you and get back on the track. That's just life. It is hard to do hard things. It is really hard without the support. And I listened to a guy one day who's very successful. Can't remember his name. It was on a podcast. But he talked about, like, he's really struggled with his weight in the past. You know, he came from a really broken, you know, low income home. And, you know, now he's probably in his like 60s, but he said, there are just things I cannot do anymore. And I have to choose that, because if I do, I fall totally off the wagon. Like, a true alcoholic is just going to have to avoid alcohol. He said, I love my mama's, you know, whatever pie she makes at this and whatever. And he said, but you know, he's put very strict rules for himself, but because he was in such a bad place for so long, he knows that even a little bit of that makes him completely fall off the track.
Right.
So it's not saying everyone has to do what he does, but he's doing what he needs to do to be successful. And if you don't have a community and people around you supporting you and cheering you on, it's not going to last. If you have people that are continually saying, oh, come on, you know, just don't do it. You don't have to eat that tonight, or you don't have to, if that's who you're surrounding yourself with all the time. I mean, I would fall off the bandwagon every single day. I have to choose better, you know, and because I have things I still need to work on. I still have weight I have to lose. I still have to keep my Lyme under control. So anyway, I think we went long enough. I super appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I will put our information below, the ripple effect.
I'll
if there's
put
anything else that you want to add.
before and after with the blow down there too.
Yep. That would be awesome.
Right.
So, okay. Well, thanks, Becky. And have a great rest of your Tuesday.
You too. Thanks.
Okay,
See
bye.
you later.